FREENBECKY, entering the new year with courage and care. A new year is not just a date, it's an emotional threshold. A new year is more than a change on the calendar. It's a pause, a collective breath the world takes together. People don't just step into a new year with fireworks and resolutions. They step in carrying memories, disappointments, quiet hopes, unfinished conversations, and unanswered questions. They carry the weight of what the previous year taught them, about themselves, about love, about safety, about loss. For many, the new year arrives with pressure. Be different. Be louder. Be better. Be more. But for others, the new year arrives with a quieter wish. Please let what feels safe remain. This is where FREENBECKY lives. Not in the urgency of reinvention, but in the steadiness of continuation. As the year turns, their presence doesn't feel like a dramatic reset. It feels like a hand held firmly while crossing into unfamiliar territory. Courage isn't always about stepping forward. Sometimes it's about staying soft. Courage is often misunderstood. We celebrate the loud kind. Public declarations, bold statements, dramatic acts of defiance. But there is another courage that rarely gets applause. The courage to remain gentle in a world that constantly tries to harden you. Freen and Becky demonstrate this quieter bravery. They exist in an industry that rewards spectacle, speculation, and exposure, yet they move with restraint. They don't rush to define themselves for comfort. They don't perform intimacy to satisfy curiosity. They don't weaponize vulnerability for relevance. That restraint is not fear. It is courage rooted in self-trust. Entering a new year with that kind of courage means saying, we know who we are. We don't need to prove it louder. And that, in many ways, is the bravest choice of all. Care that shows up even when no one is watching. Care is easy to romanticize and difficult to sustain. It's easy to show care when cameras are on. It's harder when attention fades. It's hardest when no one is demanding it. What makes FREENBECKY feel different is that their care doesn't appear reactive. It appears embedded. Fans notice how they adjust to each other's emotional states, how they create space instead of pressure, how closeness is offered, not demanded, how distance, when needed, is respected rather than punished. This kind of care is not accidental. It's practiced. As the new year begins, a time when many relationships strain under expectations, their consistency becomes even more noticeable. They don't suddenly become louder to mark the moment. They simply continue being attentive, entering the new year without abandoning what worked. So much of New Year culture revolves around erasure. Erase the old self. Erase mistakes. Erase attachments. But some people don't want a clean slate. They want continuity. Something familiar to anchor them as everything else changes. FREENBECKY doesn't feel like a story that discards its past to survive the future. They carry what works forward. Trust, emotional understanding, a shared rhythm, unspoken agreements. This approach resonates deeply with fans who know that healing isn't about starting from zero. It's about building on what didn't break you. Why their energy feels especially grounding at the start of a year. The beginning of a year is emotionally unstable. People are hopeful but anxious, optimistic but exhausted, ready for change but afraid of losing comfort. In moments like this, energy matters. FREENBECKY's energy doesn't spike, stabilizes. They don't bring chaos into the new year. They bring calm. They don't escalate emotions. They regulate them. For many fans, simply seeing them together, steady, unbothered, feels like emotional grounding. And grounding is rare in a culture addicted to extremes. Courage as protection, not exposure. There is a popular belief that bravery means showing everything. But boundaries are also brave. It takes courage to say, this part of my life is not for public consumption. This connection does not need commentary. This silence is intentional, not evasive. FREENBECKY's dynamic reflects protective courage, the kind that guards what matters instead of exploiting it. As the new year begins, that choice becomes even more powerful. When everyone else is oversharing resolutions and reinventions, Choosing privacy becomes an act of self-respect. And fans feel that instinctively. Care that allows growth without pressure. Care does not mean stagnation. True care creates the conditions for growth. Not by pushing but by supporting. FREENBECKY doesn't feel frozen in time. They feel evolving safely. There's no sense of urgency around milestones. No anxiety about labels. No fear that something must be announced for it to be real. Growth, in their case, appears organic. And that reassures fans who are tired of relationships, public or private, collapsing under timelines they never agreed to. Why this matters so much to LGBTQ+ fans. For many LGBTQ+ people, a new year is complicated. Carries hope but also fatigue. Hope for acceptance. Fatigue from explanation. What FREENBECKY represents isn't rebellion or spectacle. It's peace. Peace in existing without constant justification. Peace in loving without performance. Peace in connection without labels being demanded. Entering a new year with courage and care, rather than defiance and noise, offers an alternative narrative many queer fans rarely see reflected. One where love doesn't have to be loud to be legitimate. Moving forward together, not ahead of each other. One of the most quietly striking things about FREENBECKY is their pace. No one is dragging the other forward. No one is lagging behind. No one is being reshaped to fit expectations. They move together. This synchronization is not glamorous, but it is rare. As the year turns, this way of moving becomes symbolic. Progress without sacrifice. Change without abandonment. Growth without loss of self. A new year that doesn't demand reinvention. Not every new year needs a new version of you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can say is, I am still learning. I am still soft. I am still here. FREENBECKY doesn't enter the year pretending to be something else. They enter as they are. And that authenticity resonates with people who are tired of pretending just to survive. Care as a legacy, not a moment. Legacies aren't always built on achievements. Sometimes they're built on emotional impact. FREENBECKY's legacy is forming quietly. In fans who feel less alone. In viewers who feel seen. In people who learn that gentleness can coexist with strength. As the year begins, that legacy doesn't reset. Deepens. Conclusion. Beginning the year the way they continue it. FREENBECKY enters the new year the same way they move through the rest of time. With courage that doesn't shout. With care that doesn't perform. With a connection that doesn't need explanation to be felt. As the world rushes ahead, they walk steadily. Carrying what matters, protecting what's precious, and reminding everyone watching that love doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes the strongest way to move forward is simply to keep going. Together. With intention. And with care.